You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Infinite diversity.
Live long and prosper, and welcome to Infinite Diversity, a Star Trek Universe podcast, here on the BQN Podcast Collective. I'm your host for today, Thad, and joining me is my co-host, Chrissy. How are you today?
I'm all right. I'm starting to feel like this lifetime of feeling like I'm just a little bit different is coming to fruition. I'm not really sure what's going to happen yet, but I've developed telepathy in the last few hours, so there's that. How are you doing?
Well, you should know if you develop telepathy.
Too far away.
I'm trapped in a force field with some changelings trying to kill me, but, you know, it should be okay.
Yeah.
As long as there isn't an AI about to drop those force fields.
Yeah.
Also joining us today is Alex Perry from Weekly Trek and Trek Core. Alex, how are you today?
Good morning. Hello, everybody.
It turns out that it's a very good... We scheduled you before we knew any of this, but it's a good thing we scheduled you for this week because we have a bunch of Trek news that we will talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a big week for Star Trek news.
Mm-hmm.
Before we jump to that, we'd like to take a moment to thank our Patreon patrons who made our show possible, particularly our associate producers Carl Wonders, Justin Oser, and Chrissie De Clerck-Szilagyi. Listeners, you can hear your name listed as one of our associate producers for a monthly subscription of just $10 at patreon.com/BQN. And with a monthly Patreon subscription of just $5, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. Watch your Patreon messages for details. Okay, so first off, Paramount released a bunch of news about Star Trek this week, which makes me wonder if they're going to do anything at all for First Contact Day, especially since I don't think they've said anything about First Contact Day. So I'm guessing probably nothing.
No. Of course they will. Come on. You're going to get... I guarantee you...
The Starship is going to land next week.
Yeah.
No. I guarantee you on First Contact Day, there'll be a Strange New Worlds Season 2 trailer.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good
Okay.
point.
15th.
Okay.
That makes sense.
There's absolutely going to be a trailer next Wednesday.
That makes sense.
The other thing, check out Weekly Trek this week for more.
All right.
I think they are preparing to make 2 show announcements, and they decided not to do them at the same time, and so they did one this week, and they will be doing one next week, and the one next week will be the long-teased Section 31 project.
That makes
whatever
sense.
form
That's
it ends
reasonable.
up taking.
Because there was that interview with Kurtzman just a couple weeks ago.
Nudge, nudge, wink,
Yeah.
wink.
So they are still doing Section 31. So yeah, that's
Correct.
a fair point. But they haven't announced like an event or anything, right? Like
No, but they didn't last
Okay.
year, and that was the day they announced TNG cast are coming back.
That's
right,
right,
Like,
yeah.
There was not last year. They did not do any kind of like formal event
Right.
connected to it, but they did use the day as a big news drop day.
Okay.
I had forgotten
Fair
about
enough.
that part. Yeah. Cool.
All right, so the news we did get this week. First off, we had all been really wondering if we were getting more Star Trek this year, because they hadn't announced anything, and they had announced that Discovery was pushed back to 2024. So, very thankfully, we now know we are getting Strange New Worlds Season 2 on June 15th. We're getting Lower Decks Season 4 in August, and we are getting Prodigy Season 2.0, I guess, at some point this year, presumably after Lower Decks. My thought on this is, and I admittedly it's not an original thought, somebody else suggested it on Twitter, which is where most of my thoughts come from, is
How very modern of you.
that Strange New Worlds is going to go through mid-August if it starts on June 15th. We know there's a crossover between Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. Is it possible they'll be doing both Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks on the same night when they do that crossover to, like, build up.
Please.
I don't know. Some
I
sort
love
of
it.
thing for that.
Possibly. I don't see it from the perspective of it feels like after this time last year when they had like a bunch of shows just sort of like massed around each other that they've decided we don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
But maybe, because I personally what I think is more likely to happen is there will be like a week or two break in between.
Yeah, probably.
Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks kicking off.
This reminds me of back in the day when they would do, when you had the Thursday night lineup and the Saturday night lineup, and they would do a story that continued through them. Like there was one episode where there was a blackout on Friends and on whatever the 8:30 show was that never lasted, and then on Seinfeld. And then before that.
Or UPN's like theme weeks.
Yeah.
Next week on UPN, it's Out of Body Experience Week.
I forgot about UPN's theme.
Yeah. I don't know. My favorite was always the Hurricane one with Golden Girls and Empty Nest. Hurricane that went through. But so, if they're going to do something like that, I think that would be good.
I was thinking of the late 90s, early 2000s when like Law and Order would have one story that started on one Law and Order and then continue it on the other Law and Order, etc., etc.
Or when it would happen across show, it would start on Homicide: Life on the Streets, and then it would end on one of the Law and Order shows.
Yeah, like a couple years ago, I did a complete rewatch of the show ER, and at one point there was one episode where like the story just sort of ended, and it's because it was it was continued on this cop show that ran for 3 seasons that I had never heard of.
What was the name of the cop
I don't
show?
even remember now.
Did you go out and find the episode so you could finish the
Yes,
story?
I did.
Well, at least it was something you could find. That's good.
Good man.
Yeah. But, like, that was just the sort of thing that used to happen all the time back then. Actually,
yeah, sure.
I'll admit, I don't watch very much live TV anymore, or any at all.
Same.
It actually does still happen. They've got, NBC has like 4,000 of those Chicago shows that all talk to each other. So it does still, and there's actually 2 Law and Orders on now, so they do that on Law and Order again. No, there's 3 Law and Orders now, aren't there? Because they brought back the original Law.
The original, what's the other one?
Organized Crime, I think, is the other one.
Organized Crime, yes.
Yeah, there's 3 Law and Order, Laws and Order. It's, yeah.
Wasn't order.
Yes, Attorneys General.
It's like the good old days. Anyway. Apparently, just on NBC's, they just have all their cinematic universes.
Fox did that too, because I remember you're talking about an episode where you had to go to a different show.
Oh yeah.
You remember Strange Luck and X-Files? Yeah.
I don't remember which one was Strange Luck.
It was the one with D.B. Sweeney, where he just kept showing up. Like he would show up in places and like be there to witness a murder or something like that, and then he'd have to figure it out.
Oh yeah.
It was only on for like 2 years. Yeah.
There was also the X-Files episode Millennium, which served as a series finale for a canceled TV show.
Yep. And the 3 guys, the Lone Gunman.
Lone Gunman.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, Star Trek.
Tangents aside.
Yes. So we also know Strange New Worlds has been renewed for season 3, which is something that is not surprising.
No.
But given that Discovery is ending, it's very glad to hear that they are continuing to make more Star Trek. Lower Decks is renewed for season 5. No renewal announcement for Prodigy, but that is most likely because Prodigy already has another half a season coming next year. Whether or not they get beyond that, we shall see, but we know that there is more Star Trek coming because the long-rumored, like, I think the first rumors about this one were, like, way back in, like, 2018.
No, Thad, the first rumors for this one were all the way back in 1989.
Yes, okay. I was about to say.
The first rumors for the current iteration of this one.
Okay.
The long-rumored Starfleet Academy show is coming. It will begin production next year, which means it probably is coming in 2025. And it will be set in the 32nd century post-Discovery.
Very likely.
Based on the announcement where they quoted Michael Burnham talking about how the Academy is opening for the first time in 100 years, and also Terry Matalas, who admittedly is not working on this show, like straight up said that it does take place after Discovery.
He said Discovery era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which could be old Discovery era, but
just for precision, it was the showrunners quote about, like, it was their joint quote that said, the campus is reopened for the first time after a century, right? Which obviously says Discovery, but nowhere in the press release does it say Discovery. But yes, like that is the very, very likely working assumption.
Wasn't it either a quote or a paraphrase of something that Michael had said on the show, though?
That speech at the end of the last, or maybe not a speech, but she was talking about it, how things are coming back together the way they should be.
Yeah.
The press release for Starfleet Academy does not attribute it to anybody other than the showrunners, and it doesn't say anything about the setting.
Okay, fair enough.
I
admittedly am again going off other things that I've heard. Other people have said that, and I'm just like, but it very well may not. I didn't go back and watch and find out. But regardless, the fact that they mentioned...
it will be set in the 32nd century.
Even if they have not specifically told us 32nd century, they have given us enough clues that it will be, which makes a certain amount of sense. They have all those sets and costumes and whatnot from Discovery that they won't be using anymore. So, and based on the fact that the showrunners have CW pedigrees, it will very much be a young adult TV show.
Yeah. But I want to see Tilly teaching under the tree. She loves that tree so much. Which I completely understand, because it's nice to sit outside.
Yeah, I just did Weekly Track last night, and I sort of mixed feelings about this one. I think if you asked me what I wanted it to be, right, knowing what we know about what it will be, rather than what I would have wanted it to be before not knowing anything about it, right? Like, I don't think I would have wanted it to be a 32nd century show, but we know that it is now. So, I think I want it to be you could theoretically see them going in two different directions, right? One would be Starfleet Academy in space, and the other would be Starfleet Academy on the ground. And I actually would really like them to do it on the ground.
Same.
Partially because I think we're in the middle of Star Trek Picard Season 3, where, like, have they filmed a second of footage outside of a soundstage? I think the answer to that question is no. It would be really nice to have a show that, you know, sort of saw the sky and touched grass a little bit. And it would be different, and it would set it apart from Prodigy, right? And, like, Aaron Waltke did say this week that, you know, he was like, listen, we know there's sort of, like, surface similarities between these two shows, but we assure you that, like, we talk and the two won't be the same. So it's like, all right, well, if Prodigy is a bunch of characters on a starship off, you know, running around learning how to be Starfleet officers, well, then I kind of don't want the Starfleet Academy show to be the same, right? And it does, you know, the campus being reopened for the first time after 100 years, campus, right, to me doesn't say, you know, on a starbase. That to me says Earth rejoins the Federation at the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, and Starfleet Academy on Earth is being reopened for the first time since the burn. And, like, that's what I think I want. But I also feel like, you know, we all have to be humble enough to recognize that, just like with Prodigy, which we all ended up loving, this isn't necessarily being made for us, right? And so, like, our mixed feelings may or may not ultimately matter, and it's okay if it ends up being something that none of us like, because if it's Star Trek that brings in new fans and expands the size of the fan base, and particularly makes it a little bit younger, well, there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We need young blood to keep the fandom going. If we want to have 5 Star Trek shows in 20 years, we need people younger than we are to like Star Trek.
Yeah. And they seem to like Discovery, right? Like, if you look at the age profiles of most of the big Star Trek Discovery fans on Twitter, many of them, I would say, are under the age of 30.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, for those of you listening who are big Star Trek Discovery fans over the age of 30, I'm not saying you don't exist. I'm just saying,
I'm right here.
Yeah, well, me too, right? But like...
Not under 30.
But most...
Yeah,
But
okay.
sort of most of the, like, you know, sort of most vocally passionate Star Trek Discovery fans that I typically see on Twitter are in the 20s demographic. And, like, I'm going to guess they see that, they drew the dots together and said, all right, well, if that's the demographic that Discovery hits,
Yeah.
it's pretty easy for us to massage that a little bit lower to teens, late teens, to sort of catch them in the next wave.
Yeah, and I mean, I do watch some, not like, it's certainly not a genre that I get super into, but I have definitely watched teen dramas before, and there are some that I've really enjoyed.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah, I mean, it's Star Trek. I'm going to watch it. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't watch kids shows, and then I watch Star Trek Prodigy, and now I watch a kids show, right, and really like it. So there's nothing saying that won't be the case for Starfleet Academy as well, and they have a notable member of the writing staff.
Yes, that's another big piece of news. Tawny Newsome, most notable for playing Ensign Beckett Mariner on Lower Decks, is part of the writing staff for Starfleet Academy. Now, I don't actually know what all Tawny Newsome has or has not written in the past, but I'm definitely intrigued. And I having seen Tawny Newsome perform in many things and spoken to her, I think she'll be a great addition to that. I'm just Alex, do you know, has she written anything major in the past?
Not off the top of my head, but she is a comedian,
Right.
and it feels like you can't be a comedian. Right, like, as a comedian, you are normally a writer first and a performer second, because you have to write good jokes in order to tell good jokes. So I'm just kind of cruising off of, like, yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Well, I mean, I've seen her do improv, but yes.
Yeah. But even that's writing, it's just writing very quickly.
Yeah.
Fair.
Apparently she wrote something called Too High, Too Rap, with the number 2, in 2013.
Okay.
It says it's a short, so
Sure, it was award-winning.
I'm sure it was.
She does a good job on the Star Trek podcast for the most part, so yeah. Wish they did more episodes more frequently, but
I'm not going to trade that for less Lower Decks, though.
that's fair. Well, I mean, I would also be fine with more episodes more frequently of Lower Decks, too.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's it's her time is split.
Yeah. All right. So, Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 7, Dominion. The shortest episode by far this season. Alex, what did you think this week?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought that, you know, it was clearly a lot of setup for the sort of end of the season, right? 8, 9, and 10. But it sort of moved things right. Like, they put enough in this episode that did sort of move things forward. That so prior to this episode, my ranking of like my favorite episodes of the season have been 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 7 did not slot into the top spot, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad episode by any means. I really like getting the Vedic backstory, which I thought was great. I obviously loved the Tuvok cameo at the start. There was a lot of great stuff. I think this episode was probably the one that went the furthest in terms of sort of challenging the characters a little bit, right? Like the conversations between Picard and Beverly about, are we the same people that we were before, or are we like morally compromised? And you know, I think we got sort of new levels of complexity to the Jack Crusher stuff this week that tells us that it's not as simple. I mean, it's never clearly been as simple as we thought, but like now it seems even more complicated than we thought, right? Like, I think it's pretty obvious from this episode that, you know, the sort of scary face is not another changeling, it's something else. And, you know, so like, what is that, right? Like, who is that? And how does that connect to the Jack Crusher stuff? And how does that connect to the Picard body stuff? So, yeah, I liked it a lot, but it was like part 1 of a 2-part episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely feels like it's setting up the next episode for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we get to the end of this, it's going to be the setup for the next 3. Good. It was good. It was it had some nice little moments of I was afraid that people had been overtaken. I was absolutely sure at the beginning that Geordi was. When he's like, "Oh, we should just accept this," and I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And when Picard said, "Oh, except that we're alone," then I was like, "All right." But for a moment,
You thought Geordi was a changeling?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, this is partially this episode, because like I feel like it was especially bad in this episode, but I want to rant about something that other people on the internet have talked about, and...
You're going to talk about lighting, aren't you?
I am absolutely going to talk about lighting. So first off, you can't like tweet about this because 1,000 people will tell you that you're terrible and you hate Star Trek if you do, including the showrunner. That's another thing I actually want to rant about a little bit. Terry Matalas and Dave Blass need to step back a little. Especially Dave Blass is especially cantankerous about this. There are definitely some people who are antagonistic and are lambasting the show for no reason. There are other people making valid points, and the people running the show will come in and crap all over them for saying it. And it's a little ridiculous, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes. I think Terry and Dave have made their own monsters,
Yeah.
and that somebody told me, somebody gave this to me, and I'm now repeating it back to you. This is not an original thought of mine, which is that it might have been Claire Little. Like, it is wonderful that they have been so present and so responsive to pretty much every fan question that they get, right? But there's 2 consequences to that. One is it creates a sense of entitlement about response, which, when it comes to, like, criticism, means that I think they get bombarded with much more criticisms than they otherwise would if they were slightly less responsive to questions. And 2, Terry's done this thing, and he's the showrunner, he's entitled to do whatever he wants, but it has, like, I think Terry is particularly responsible for the culture of hinting too much about things that are still coming that then other people have picked up and run with. I don't mind Terry doing it. He's a showrunner. He can do whatever he wants to. But I really don't appreciate like there are people kind of saying, the Geordi data stuff in this episode's really great, like a week ago, right? Like unacceptable. That is a culture that's created and nurtured by that behavior. And it's just like, dude, just like, I know you want everybody to experience it in exactly the way that you want them to experience it, but they won't, and you can't control that, right? Like, everybody's going to watch this season and get something out of it that might be different than what you intended, and you just have to be okay with that, because it's going to have millions of viewers, and you cannot govern the way that every single one of them react to every single choice that you've made. And so it's just like, just tweet less, right? Like,
yeah.
And he clearly has a really, like, short fuse about stuff. For, like, at some point he followed me for some reason. I discovered this past week he had soft blocked me, right? Like, unfollowed, and I was not following him anymore.
That was probably after your rant about screeners.
Probably.
You were absolutely right about that, though.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, and my rant was not about entertainment journalists hyping up the show or anything like that. It was about people like us who also get access to screeners, then not handling the responsibility of it appropriately, right? Like, and like, going on Twitter and saying, like telling people to expect particular character beats in certain ways. Unacceptable as far as I'm concerned, right? Like, a complete, like, breach of the responsibility of having it. wanting to share that, but go find somebody else who's seen the screeners and have a conversation in DM with them about what you liked and what you like. Like, find your outlet some other way than broadcasting it to your public platform, because, like, that is right to say, like, oh, the Geordie Data stuff in this episode is great, which it is, right? Like, one of the best parts of the episode is like, that is a spoiler, right? Like, that's not just saying the next episode's really great, you're going to really enjoy watching it. That tells people, now you're sitting there watching the episode expecting there's going to be a Geordie Data scene the whole time, right? Like, rather than just sort of letting it happen and being like, and then you're like, oh, this is the one that Jesse Gender told me to expect. And it's like, okay, well, now you have experienced that episode in a different way than Jesse Gender did, because Jesse Gender didn't know that scene was there when she watched the episode for the first time. And now you have materially affected someone's experience of watching it. And, like, it all goes back to the top, right? Like that is the sort of kind of culture about talking about this season and this show that Terry and Dave have kind of created for themselves, and, like, they don't seem to be enjoying it very much. And it's like, there is a way out of this. Tweet less.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or it seems like the issues with people having screeners and talking about it is worse than I have ever seen?
Oh, it's way worse.
No, it's so much worse.
I have spent the entire season thinking, like, God, they're going to pull all the screeners from everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
I had the same thought.
And it's like, that's not good, because, you know, you have to be able to prepare, and, you know, before conversations like this one. But at the same time, I would completely understand if they did pull all the screeners because of what's happened with it.
Yeah. For me, it's a consequence of three things happening simultaneously. One, them giving everybody a lot of episodes, right?
Yeah.
It didn't happen to anywhere near the same extent, but last year with Strange New Worlds Season 1, giving the first 5 episodes, right, like, it just gives people a lot of time to sit around and, like, have to keep their mouth shut. And, like, that's a lot of responsibility to pile on people. So that's number one. Number two is there were encouragements from certain people affiliated with production to people who had seen screeners prior to the season dropping to say, please share your reaction online, right? Like, please tell people that you liked it. Completely understandable prior to the season starting, from the perspective of 1 and 2 were not, you know, universally well received. 3 is very different, and you're looking to create a culture of buzz and hype about it, right? Completely understandable. But that then feeds into number 3, which is, once you start doing it, it's difficult to stop.
Yep.
You know, I find myself on my show occasionally, you know, like, slipping into it, and I feel really bad about it after it happens. Because it's like, well, first of all, like, no one's stopping me. Second, right, like, oh, well, I am contributing to, like, the success of the show because, right, like, there is a way you can present it in your mind where you're like, I am doing a good thing, when in reality, you're just bragging about, right, like, access to something that, you know, you are very privileged to have, and you should treat that privilege with a level of responsibility. And I'm also not, right, it's just, like, has there ever been a show where everyone on the internet has known the moment that screeners were sent out to reviewers, right? Like, I don't know when Mandalorian screeners, I don't think Mandalorian, they send out screeners, but I don't know for any other show, right? Like, for franchises that I have no connection to, how far in advance, what kind of episodes are being sent out to reviewers. Terry Matalas retweets, like, someone who was getting screeners said, oh, I just got episodes 7 and 8 in, and they're great. And, like, Terry Matalas quote tweeted and said, oh, I guess screeners are rolling out to reviewers. And it's like, okay, well, now everybody knows that everybody has 7 and 8 within, like, an hour and a half of them rolling it, right? Like that's the kind of stuff where it's like, nobody should care about that. And because basically what you're creating by doing that is not this sort of sense that, like, reviewers have a tool that allows them to watch an episode, reflect on it, and develop their coherent thoughts, maybe even write them down, such that on Thursday morning, Jim Morehouse is, like, he couldn't write the 1,500 words
Right.
that he writes on every episode in an hour and a half, right? Like, it takes him weeks to put those together. That's what the screen is for. What you've created instead is this haves and have-nots mentality, where there is a public release on Thursday morning at 3 a.m. Eastern for the episode, but there is also a pre-release, right, for what actually seems like it's quite a large group of people who are not shutting up about it when they get it. They are now receiving access to episodes and immediately going online and saying, I'm watching this and here's my reaction to it. And it just is like, it is, for me, it's over the line. Lots of people kind of, who, many of whom are recipients of screeners, push back on me and were like, it's not over the line. And I'm like, it is over the line as far as I'm concerned. And honestly, the number of people who replied and favorited and retweeted the tweet tells me that for those who do not have the immense privilege, right? Like, immense privilege of having access to episodes early, that they are very dissatisfied with the way that the, not entertainment journalists, but the now quite large group of amateur Star Trek fans who have platforms like we and you do, not treating that responsibility appropriately. And you should probably rename this episode "What's Wrong About Screeners," because we've talked about this for a while now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I obviously agree with you. It just feels like such a ridiculous sort of like ego stroke to tell people that you have screeners.
That's exactly what it is. It's an ego. It's a status symbol, right? Like, exactly. Yeah. And that's why, like, it's really hard for me on my show because I want to do, like, if I just did the episodes every week, it'd be easy just to, like, not acknowledge that I got them because we're just talking about the episode.
To be clear, I am not judging you for revealing that you...
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally understand that. This is just me expressing how I feel about myself, right? But, like, they'll come, right, like, the trailer drops, and I've seen the first 5 episodes, and it's like, well, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes bullshitting, pretending I haven't seen it, and, like, riffing off of what's in the trailer, because that's disingenuous, and I'm very likely to be impacted in what I say by what I've seen. So I kind of have to acknowledge that, like, I can't really talk about this because I've seen it and that's what's going to happen. But then it's like, what else slips out at that moment in time, right? Like, then what kind of impressions am I sending to people about stuff and the way that I react to things? It's very difficult. I love the fact they do, like, 5 episodes at a time, 6 episodes at a time, but I kind of wish they just went back to doing, like, 1 episode a week. Next week's episode.
I honestly think the show is better experienced 5 episodes at a time.
Yes.
It is, yes.
So, yeah, I'm of mixed mind on that. But what I also really miss, beyond this, is I miss when the show came out at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night.
Yes, that was the preferred way of seeing it, right? Like, because everybody did it at the same time, and there was also that element of, then the conversations were much more muted about spoilers because there was right, like, with the midnight drops, the expectation is, well, most people won't see it until that evening, but some people will, and so it's frowned about to talk about it. Whereas if it's like, well, if it's at 8 p.m. on a Sunday, right, that's a perfectly accessible time for anybody to see the show. 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m., on the East Coast, right? Like, and you can stay off, like, social media for the hour if you're doing something else before you do get the opportunity to watch it. And so then there just is more of a live conversation about it, when it's happening. Yeah, that was the preferred way of doing it. But I guess, streaming platforms just don't seem like they want to.
It's really hard for a streaming platform to deal with the sudden load on their surfers when something like that happens. So I understand why they drop it in the middle of the night. It's so that their surfers don't get slammed by thousands of Trekkies all over the world connecting at the same time to watch Star Trek. Yeah, millions of Trekkies. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah, exactly. But I just loved that in season 1 of Discovery, it was 8 p.m. Sunday night, and we were all live tweeting it as it happened, and we had great conversations. It's how I met so many people on Twitter was through that. And then season 2 was Thursday nights at 8 p.m., and that was also same situation. And then they moved it to midnight, and yeah. Anyway.
I wonder if the overblown reaction with screeners and people, other than just the ego trip of being able to say, oh, hey, screeners, I wonder if it's because of it being this series of Picard, this season of Picard. This is something that has been so anticipated and is felt to be such a fix for what had been done before as a finale for their story. And I'm wondering if it's going to be this bad for the next round of for Strange New Worlds, That's
a fair point.
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly expectations are much higher for this than for anything else. And combined to that, the expectations are much higher, and then that the, results itself are, meeting those expectations does sort of create that, feedback cycle. And then add to that the very publicly stated desire of the production team to do more of this and wanting to cultivate that level of response to it, that does sort of say to the powers that be, right, Star Trek fans really want this, and so you'd be foolish not to move forward on the Star Trek Legacy proposal. It just all feeds into itself. And so, yeah, this doesn't feel to me like this is now how things will always be. It feels like a unique moment in time where this culture and reaction is about Picard season 3 specifically.
Right.
I think so.
But that doesn't make it any more fun to experience. Right? It sucks. The season's great. The reaction to it's really positive, but it's just had these sort of leak out effects of, every week focusing on something dumb. And we ended up talking about this because of the lighting, right?
Yes, and
which is not a dumb thing.
We haven't even gotten to that.
I still need to talk about the lighting. The lighting or the carpet or where is Troy or some of that stuff's not done, week. Right?
That's been really bad this week.
But things just the sort of little stuff where it's to come back to your point, Thad, if Terry and Dave just let the pitch go by, right, rather than taking a swing at literally every ball that gets, thrown their way, there would be less of a furore about it, because the moment the showrunner weighs in or the production designer weighs in on lighting choices or prop styles or character hair or any of that stuff, is the moment that a bunch of people who never considered that, never thought about it, never plugged into it as an issue, now are going to be oh, well, now I have an opinion about this. Because the showrunner has an opinion about this, because they have indicated that it is important enough for them to weigh in on and have an opinion about, that I must now have an opinion about it too. And it's shut up. No, you don't. Let's all just be quiet, enjoy the episodes, and go on about our lives.
Yeah. So,
on that note,
lighting. I'm sorry, the show is too damn dark.
The lighting.
There's this trend in filmmaking in general over the last 15, 20 years that everything has to be dramatically lit. And I understand for the drama, that's why. It makes it hard to see things. And it doesn't make actual sense for a Starfleet ship. If you think about why on earth would people have a meeting in a conference room on a ship and not have the lights turned on? It doesn't make sense.
They're all British. See, there's this thing, I grew up with, which my wife absolutely hates, but is just how I function. I never turn on the overhead light. Can't do it. you can see the room I'm in. This light is not on. I've got a lamp behind me and I've got a lamp over here, right? Like, it is lamplight, like, at night. It is a warm, comforting, dusk-like glow in any room that I'm in, because if someone turns on, quote-unquote, the big light, that's what it's called. If someone turns on the big light, it immediately has to be turned off in my house, because I just, like, it's not like I don't get angry about it, but I just, like, everything in my body screams, this is wrong, this light must be turned off. So I feel like there's a little bit of that going on. Well, so, yes, you're right, it is way too dark. Dave Blass did give one explanation for that, which is that was a choice to light the bridge, particularly using the consoles rather than actual lights, was so that they could film the scenes much quicker, because then they wouldn't have to reset lighting for every shot, because it's just statically comes off of the monitors, and like that's the only really source of light, and that allowed them to shoot it within the time frame that they had. But it's a choice, right? Potentially a stylistic one. I don't know. I would be really interested, based off of some of the things that are heavily rumored for what will happen before the end of this season, which may involve the return of certain sets that, when we saw them previously, were incredibly well lit. I think it would be really interesting to return to this conversation after episode 10 and see if there is some element of artistic choice that goes into it. But I agree with you. It's too damn
You mean the worst kept secret about the season that we've all known for like over a year?
What is in Hangar Bay 12?
because Patrick Stewart straight up said that we were going to see it, and then Paramount said no, we're not, and like,
I think it was LeVar, actually.
No, it was Patrick Stewart at Comic-Con said we go back and we see the original Enterprise bridge.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yes.
And
then Jeff Mandel brought a bunch of pictures to SDLV that he showed at a session, and then magically disappeared from the convention and was never heard from again.
Section 31.
Yeah. Oh, and also there's, like, to complete the, like, how do we really suspect the Enterprise D or a version of the Enterprise D bridge is coming at some point this season. LeVar Burton tweeted a picture of Geordi in his Commodore outfit, and, you know, it's like, all right, great, it's a picture of Geordi in his Commodore outfit. Well, the background is the, like, you know, sort of, like, segmented fabric walls of the Enterprise D bridge, so...
Oh, he was just at the Star Trek tour in Ticonderoga when he took that picture.
Yeah,
it's fine.
He just carries the uniform around with him. It's all good.
Yeah, right.
You know, I get why, like, this episode and some of the other moments where they are very dark, particularly this episode, because they're hiding in debris and they're supposed to look like they are, you know, non-functional. That would be more impactful if the rest of the time it was better lit. You know, it would make more sense. But yeah.
It's just, and I don't actually, and I say this as someone who just doesn't like the style. I don't actually personally have a problem seeing what's happening. But that's because I watch this show on a 100-inch projector screen. And the contrast on a projector screen is inherently going to be lower. So you're going to see the dark things, because at the end of the day, it's a white screen that it's broadcast, it's shown on. So, and it's blown up. So I can still see just fine. But it's dark. It's darker than it needs to be. And it just, even by the standards of modern television, which is usually very dramatically lit, this show is extremely dark.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm going to talk about it on this podcast, because if I tweeted about it, I would just get way too many people yelling at me.
If you tweeted about it, Dave Blass would yell at you.
Yes. If I tweeted about it, Dave Blass would probably block me. Yeah. Anyway. So, I do want to, again, say, I love this season. This is a fantastic season of Star Trek. But it's too dark.
Across 7 episodes, I'm extremely comfortable saying it is the best season of serialized Star Trek that we have gotten. I'm also comfortable saying that it is a very good serialized season of television that I have seen, right? Like, it's not, you know, Breaking Bad, but it's also, like, there are a lot of really bad serialized streaming shows, and this is a very good one, right? Like, it lives within the tier of it is using the serialized storytelling pretty well. It doesn't feel, too overly bloated, right? Like, you can't point at it and say that spending 3 episodes in the Nebula in the first half of the season, right? Like, it didn't have a little bit of stretching to it, but like, this is not Discovery season 4, right? Which was, a stretch from episode 1 all the way through to episode 13.
Yep.
It does feel much more like present, and like the story is progressing, and like you're really moving forward with things. But having said that, right, that doesn't mean that it's perfect, and they spent too long in the Nebula, and this was probably one of the weaker episodes of the season, of a very good season, and it's too damn dark. But, like, and Jim Morehouse reminds us of this a lot, right? Like, you're only ever going to experience this show in a weekly format one time, and that's right now, right? Every time you experience it from now on will be where you watch 2, 3, 4 back to back. Or very close together, right? You're not going to impose upon yourself a week-long wait between episode 2, 3, and 4. So, like, first impressions obviously are very impactful in the way that people think about things, but it's also like, like, in some ways it is, you were saying this earlier, Thad, it's like, you kind of should, right, like, binge them, because that does feel like the way that the show is actually meant to be experienced, and we're experiencing it in a slightly artificially different fashion than they intended. And as a result, our, like, reflections on it might be sort of, differentially governed by that.
Yeah. For an analogy, I'm going to talk about an entirely different franchise here. The Wheel of Time book series by Robert Jordan. By Robert Jordan and finished by Brandon Sanderson. Yeah. A 13-book epic series. Actually, no, not 13. It was 14. 14-book epic series. There are, from, like, books like 8 through 10 are often referred to among fandom as the slog, because not very much happens in those 3 books. And I will say, as a fan of the books who read them as they came out, a couple years apart from each other, yeah, it was pretty rough. But rereading the series all at once, it's not bad at all, because you're like, oh, well, there's more coming.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And it's the same thing.
Just keep reading.
Yeah.
Continue reading now, right?
Yeah.
Like, just keep going.
Yeah. So, I think this season, I think every season of Picard works best binged.
Yes.
And I think this season will be very good if you watch the whole thing in a weekend in the future.
Yes, I'm convinced that one of the reasons why I like season 2 of Picard much more than lots of other people is because I had the benefit of seeing screeners and they sent it in like 3 or 4 episode chunks.
Yeah, maybe.
I need to binge Discovery season 4.
As do I. Yeah.
But I think it will probably also feel a lot better if you watch it all in a weekend too.
It feels a little bit better.
Just a little bit.
Because it's less about the length of the binge, and it's more about like do you feel like the story is just absolutely just treading water? And like Discovery set up one simple question: who is species 10C? And then it didn't answer that question for nearly 13 episodes. And it's just like it just kept. So yeah, it is a bit better watching it straight through than it was week to week. But it's still, for me, the weakest season of modern Star Trek. Yeah, we got complaints. I remember because that was the first season that I was on this show. And we got a couple complaints that because we were complaining about the show and about it not doing anything. I remember there were a couple people that were kind of annoyed at us for every week saying, "Well, they didn't do anything this week."
Right. What do we want?
It's just and it's just sort of that. It's that duality between like what is the point of each episode, right? in an episodic show, there is no point to each
Right.
episode.
There you
And
go.
so you can visit the prison planet where the guy, is condemned to death and wants to stay there. And you can visit the, casino planet where you have to gamble your way to getting something. And you can go to the galactic barrier and try and get through. And it doesn't matter because, those episodes are not designed to contribute to an overall story arc. They're just meant to be enjoyed as individual products that live by themselves and that are by themselves. But when you're also telling people that there is this story that begins in episode 1 and ends in episode 13, and given we know the Discovery style is not to wrap up the story in episode 6 and start a new one, or dramatically change the conversation around what the question was that started the season by mid-season, we all knew we were not going to get the answers we wanted until the end of the season. So it's so much of those episodes ends up getting taken up with how do we, sort of move this sort of bigger story forward, but without telling the audience anything significantly meaningful that will answer the question, right? Compare and contrast with, to bring it back to topic, Picard Season 3 and Dominion.
Yeah.
If it were Discovery Season 4, we would have gotten Vedek's origin story and her motivation in Episode 10.
Right.
Well, we got it today in Episode 7, right? We now know where does she come from, what's driving her. It doesn't answer all of the questions. It set up a new question, but that was one of the questions at the start of the season was, who is this character? By Episode 7, we have the answer. They posed a new question, but we have the answer, right? That was a satisfying experience to have that character. Great speech by Amanda Plummer, right? Talk about, what her origin was, why these changelings are a little bit different, all of that stuff, right? That is the way that you tell a serialized story over a course of time that is one story, but that holds the audience's attention and doesn't make you think you're taking them for a ride. Discovery Season 4 was very much just okay, well, we ask a question in episode 1, we answer the question in episode 13, and then we've got to figure out what to do for the episodes in between.
So, on that topic, did we know, was there ever a reference on DS9 to them having 9 changelings?
Yeah, I was
Before.
racking my brain on this one and Googling, and I couldn't find anything.
No, I assume it's if they'd filled in the dialogue, it would have been, over the course of the war, 9 infiltrating changelings in various different places were, caught and captured, and then they got sent to Daystrom Station. The part that, that bumps me a little bit, that I wish there was just a little more exposition to go deeper into, is the sort of who did the right, Vedek blames the experiments on Starfleet, that Starfleet was conducting these experiments against the changelings. I've had some conversation with people who are no, the context clues very clearly tell you it's Section 31. I don't necessarily agree that the context clues are strong enough to tell you that, right? From the perspective of...
I assume it was,
Yeah, I
but
did
they
too.
don't tell us
I
that for sure.
assume it was, right? From the perspective of, morally repugnant Mengelev-type activities, right, conducted by Federation citizens. You better hope that's Section 31 and not, the regular Federation. But they never explicitly said that. They also, and this ties into just a very minor criticism that I have coming out of last week's episode, which is, they go to Daystrom Station and Worf has that line about, all of Section 31's, finest table scraps, and then, Riker says something like, critical division of Starfleet intelligence, right? I would have rather they reframe that slightly to say something along the lines of, all of Section 31's finest table scraps, kind of sent here after the organization was dismantled and,
nice.
brought into the light, right? Boom, end it, right? Because that would have been a satisfying wrap-up to the Deep Space Nine storyline for Section 31. Instead, it's just nope, this continues to be this, sort of semi-sanctioned, semi-public secret organization, which, given we're 25 years past Deep Space Nine, doesn't quite fit with the Deep Space Nine stuff, right? The whole Section 31, who are they and how do they fit into the Federation is now totally sort of screwed up in terms of, like, you know, how do you come up with a coherent explanation for everything that there's been so far? And hopefully a Michelle Yao Georgiou project, you know, will fix that, but I'm not holding my breath. So it is, yeah. So, like, I think there is that element of it does sort of pose some tough questions, right? Because if it is Section 31, you can mentally sort of separate it out and say, well, we did already know that they created a whole virus to, like, genocide all of the changelings. So, you know, no big deal that they were also doing biological experiments on changelings as well. If it's not Section 31, if it's, you know, a scientist from the Daystrom Institute, it is the Daystrom Station, after all, right? Like, who's responsible for doing this? Then it's a little more like, oh, well, you know, like, Starfleet's not so great, right?
Yeah. It's Guantanamo instead of a black site. Yeah.
Right.
Since you brought up about the what they're doing with them, my first couple watches, I assumed that this was the research to create the disease. But then it occurred to me that this was probably after. And that, because she makes some comment to the effect of, they're going to use us to drop us into places and create chaos or something. That's a little more than what she says. But so now I'm looking at this and going, okay, so somebody at Daystrom Institute is trying to figure out a way to control changelings so that they can be used either as chaos actors or spies in some other society. So there's a whole extra world.
That's the implication.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole other thing that just is beyond anything we've seen from Section 31 or Starfleet.
Yeah, and the changeling morphogenic virus was created by Season 4, because they say in Deep Space Nine that Odo probably became infected when he was at Starfleet headquarters in those Homefront and Paradise Lost. So, like, they had created it and seeded it before the war itself even started.
Yeah.
So, on that topic, when Vadic says that Starfleet didn't give them the cure, it was stolen by one of their own, that's not entirely accurate. Odo is the one that gave it to them, but it was Starfleet that it was two Starfleet officers who stole
I actually thought that line was quite intentional and clever, because the previous line, exchanges, Picard says, oh, well, we gave you the cure, and she says, no, that's your version of history, right? The real version of history is that, and then she gives her version of history, which is that, and that also is not, like, exactly accurate. I think that was meant to be an intentional, like, everybody has blood on their hands, nobody has the correct interpretation, it's more complicated than either party thinks that it is,
right?
And nobody is necessarily in the quote unquote in the right on this one specifically,
right?
I wondered too, recognizing that you're not supposed to be able to keep secrets in the link, but I wondered too how Odo presented it to them. If he thought they would accept it better if he said, "I got this surreptitiously," you know, they didn't want to give it to you.
Possibly.
Yeah.
They have it. They have been able to keep secrets in the link. Like, that has...
I said not
They've seen them do
supposed
that.
to.
Right, yeah.
Like, Vulcans aren't supposed to lie.
Right.
But yeah, I think that was very intentional. I don't think we're getting canon mistakes in this.
Yeah. No, I didn't think so.
Oh,
either.
no, I know you didn't. I'm agreeing with Alex there. Yeah.
So, let's talk about the first scene of this episode.
Sure.
Tuvok! Help me, Tuvok! Don't let me fall!
Oh, I didn't even go there.
Oh, God. You had to bring that up.
Sorry.
Oh, Duffy, that's funny.
All right, so first off, they're in the Chintaka salvage field, which is cool, which is presumably where all the wreckage from the first and second battles of Chintaka in the Dominion War are.
There's some little Defiant pieces floating around.
I'm sure there's some Defiant pieces floating around. Poor Captain Sisko, I believe he was quite fond of that ship.
So many escape pods.
So, I thought the scene with Tuvok was masterfully done.
Oh,
Loved
wow,
it.
yes.
such a roller coaster where,
Yeah.
oh, is he a changeling? And then they talk about Calto, and Seven visibly relaxes. You hear the Voyager theme, like,
You hear the Voyager music, yes.
This is the real deal. And then
It's Tuvok!
and then boom, it's not Tuvok.
All right, scale of 1 to 10, based off of the dialogue in that scene. Tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, before you watched Dominion, how certain were you that Kate Mulgrew was going to appear before the end of the season? And after that scene, how certain were you that Kate Mulgrew was going to appear in this season?
I'm still not sure because Terry Matalas straight out said she's not in it.
Yeah, so did Will
I
Wheaton.
think he's lying.
But he could still be lying. Yes.
I just, so, like, the fact they spend, right, like, in a short episode, 3 lines of dialogue specifically establishing what is Admiral Janeway doing, and the fact that if they'd said, you know, have you talked to Admiral Janeway? No. She's still on a long-range deep space exploration assignment.
That's a
It
very
would have
good
been
point.
like, okay, yeah, then, totally off the board. But it was like, no, I'm sure she's completely engrossed with the planning for Frontier Day
That
and the
is-
celebrations connected to that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, we're headed towards, we know this season's going to end up at Frontier Day. So, you know, it's like, I don't know. I went into it being probably before the episode, I was maybe a 6. After the episode, I'd say I'm maybe an 8.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't expected, but after seeing this, I now do expect to see it.
Yeah, no, you've turned me around. I'm probably like a 7 or an 8 now. And it's not the first time they've mentioned Janeway. They mentioned Janeway a couple
it's
times
like the
early.
third or fourth
Yeah.
Janeway reference this season.
On the other hand, back in Discovery Season 3, we had the 2-parter in the Mirror Universe where they mentioned Lorca like 20 times.
Yes. Well,
That might pay off this season. We don't know.
I think our previous conversation about Picard Season 3 versus Discovery Season 4 has sort of demonstrated that the two writers' rooms have slightly different approaches to serialized television.
A little.
Okay, if Lorca shows up in Picard Season 3, I'm going to lose my mind.
I want him to show up in Section 31, but that's me.
I want Prime Lorca to show up in Strange New Worlds.
He should. Yep.
Mix it all together. My theory on Weekly Trek this week, which now I have to hurry this episode out before you do, is
we can take
that
this out.
Section 31. No, leave it in. The Section 31 series, I'm just kidding. Section 31 series will be a mini-series that will cross over with Strange New Worlds, so they can just use all the Strange New Worlds sets and costumes and maybe a couple other characters. And now let's add in this will be the new part. Let's add in the dimension that it'll be a Section 31 project crossover with Strange New Worlds that features the return of Prime Lorca. I'm in for that.
I'm in for that as well.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Jason
for
Isaacs
that
and Michelle
specifically.
Yeoh, yes, absolutely.
Yep.
And potentially Anson Mount
God.
too, right? Like my theory is that they pull over like 1 or 2 of the characters. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so. In season 1 ends with La'an Noonien Singh going off to like find herself, right? Maybe she's part of the Section 31 miniseries.
Oh, that would
Maybe.
be good.
Yep.
And that I was about to say they could use that to explain getting Una back, but we're going to see that before.
Because it just feels like Section 31 is a Kurtzman project.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically like a brainchild of him. And what do we know about Kurtzman? We know Mike McMahon projects, and we know Terry Matalas projects. What do we know about Kurtzman projects? Well, he likes Discovery, and he likes the time periods connected to Discovery. Starfleet Academy, I think, is a 32nd century show because that's when Kurtzman wants it. My expectation, therefore, as much as I want Georgiou to go back to the Enterprise time frame and, you know, sort of like do the Romulan War, that's not going to happen. As much as I want her to go back to the 25th century to interact with those legacy characters, that's not going to happen, right? Like, for me, the only place realistically she ends up back at is the 23rd century. What's there in the 23rd century? Strange New Worlds. And because I'm sure Michelle Yeoh is more expensive than she was 3 years ago off the back of winning Best Actress at the Oscars, you're probably going to need, right? Like, especially if like the sort of hint that he gave in the interview you referenced, Thad, was that like he said, new show announcements are coming, and also we might do more than just write, like, full series. We might do character-based mini-series. And it's like, character-based mini-series. Wow, that sure does sound like a Michelle Yao vehicle to me, right? So if it's a mini-series, you're not going to want to build a bunch of new sets. You're not going to want to make a bunch of new costumes, right? For some wholly new other time frame, you're going to use stuff that's on the racks. What's on the racks? A bunch of Strange New World stuff. 23rd century, pull it off, have a couple of characters, bing, bang, boom, you're all done.
What I think is wild is thinking about this. If Prime Lorca is in this, in Discovery Season 1, Jason Isaacs almost certainly earned more per episode than Michelle Yeoh did.
That's a beautiful irony.
In Section 31, she's going to earn a lot more than he does.
Yeah, for sure.
Good, I like that.
Also,
but only one of them has won an Oscar in the meantime.
Yep.
Also, if we're doing character-driven miniseries, they could still at some point do the Romulan War. Just saying.
Tuvok.
Ooh, a Tuvok series. Okay.
Come on, he was great in this episode.
Star Trek Tuvok.
Right? Like,
I'm on board for Star Trek Tuvok.
Captain Tuvok.
I'd watch a Captain Tuvok show.
Yeah.
Captain Tuvok, Starfleet Intelligence.
Captain Tuvok with First Officer Harry Kim.
Still an ensign.
Still an ensign
Just
somehow,
kidding.
yes.
Just kidding.
I did like the meme. Someone was there were a couple people were doing different memes about what would have been the giveaways if it had been someone other than Tuvok. One of them was if it was B'Elanna, it would have been when she said "Hi Seven, so good to see you."
Yeah.
The other one was Harry Kim shows up with 2 pips on his collar. Seven immediately ends the call.
Yep. Before we get away from Tuvok here, I just want to say, and this is really nitpicky on my part, but
excellent,
because I don't usually do this kind of thing to comment on a difference of appearance.
I am here for this.
His ears seem to be twice the size they were before and stick out a lot further from his head.
They have a little divot thing in the front that they didn't have before.
So I'm just putting that out there. Maybe if we have our Tuvok miniseries, there'll be a reason, but it was distracting first time I saw it.
No, I'm with you. The ears were not the same as they were before.
Mm-hmm. And I'm down for, understand changes with makeup, changes with the way things are done, but it just seemed it was more than just slightly altering it for one person.
Yeah.
Okay.
They probably were using... They may very well not have made specific ears for
That's
Tim
true.
Russ to be Tuvok. They may very well have just had some appropriately colored Vulcan ears on the shelf that they stuck on him.
That might be. Or even Romulan ears. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ears from the Romulan that Elnor chopped his head in
Oh, there
half.
you go.
Yes. Tech Meltac or something like that.
Good memory.
I was a Romulan senator.
Yeah, so, that now that I think about it, it may not have been that particular Romulan, but they probably were ears that they already had on hand.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than making specific Tuvok ears for that one scene. Although, speaking of, it's probably not that one scene, because speaking of people on the shows telling us things that they shouldn't tell us, Tim Russ tweeted that he's in another episode.
Did he really?
Yes.
The first of 2 episodes dropped today.
Excellent. Oh, good. Well, because, no, I'm actually really pleased to hear that, because it is, they obviously do go to the lengths in dialogue of saying, basically, don't worry, I didn't kill him in order to replace him, right? He's still alive out there.
Right.
So it would be nice to actually check in with, real Tuvok.
He's going to show up with Admiral Janeway, probably.
Likely.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I didn't think about that.
Oh, good. I'm pleased about that. Thank you for telling me that. I had not seen that.
I gave news to the Weekly Trek man
Wow.
himself. All right. So, we already talked about this episode for longer than the episode was on, and we've barely even covered it. But
That's all right.
What?
That's right. You'll cover the rest of it next week when it actually matters.
Right. What's the deal with Jack Crusher?
Who knows?
I'm not liking where this is going, because if we find out that he is not he's not actually their child, that some changeling took an opportunity to impregnate someone who was with who was fairly high up in Starfleet and who was with a prominent person in Starfleet, and then it all backfired because she decided not to tell him about it. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I think he is really their child, but there's something else going on as well.
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely something else going on.
I go worst case scenario.
There's definitely
there's something
going on.
Made me think of Cisco, actually, and the Prophets.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Red Eye's Pa Wraith, right? But
this comes back to my Pa Wraith theory. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also just like, I don't know. See, this is a part I'm sort of struggling with. Is, okay, it's now established that, like, the big bad of the season is actually not the changelings, that there's somebody pulling the changeling strings.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an awfully big thing to introduce with 3 episodes of the season left to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's just like, okay, what is that? It could be the Pa Wraiths, right? Like Red Eyes, right? Like, you know, sort of the kind of Cisco-y type, you know, like origin story. But then it's just like, that is such a big concept to introduce and very left field.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sold on your theory that the hand face is not a changeling.
Yeah, same. I think it might be some changelings.
I think when he referred to Vadic as your kind, he may have been talking about the genetically modified changelings from Section 21.
Possibly.
So I am conflicted
and I
about
say
this.
he, but it could be, you know.
It's a very deep voice.
Possibly.
Right, but that's still...
Okay, so the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, she's a changeling. The second time I saw it, I was like, he says, your kind is not... it's not as unmanipulable or something like that, or special as you believe.
Right.
And then I'm like, no, wait, she's a solid that's being manipulated by a changeling. And then, no, she's a changeling. And I'm wondering if we have a hybrid here of the Doctor and the changeling that we see kill her, you know? And that's why she's talking to her hand.
It would explain why she's using that face. Like, otherwise, like, why... Yeah. She could use literally any face she wants. We know that. Why is she using that one?
Well, to remind her of her anger.
I think that's sort of a little bit what that is connected to.
Yeah, but that was very interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing further. But I think it's still the changelings. Alex is probably right, though. We'll have to apologize.
Because it was included in the previously on this week, I want to nitpick something that annoyed me last week that I forgot to mention.
Sure.
When that big burly Starfleet security person that's beating Riker turns into Vadic, you see the face turn into Vadic, and she says hi, and it's the exact same spot as the face on that big burly Starfleet security man was. Amanda Plummer is not tall.
Oh.
Also, her head was smaller. Like, when that Starfleet security person turns into Vadic, Amanda Plummer's face should be a different size and in a different place.
Well, but you caught the mid shapeshift.
I guess.
I mean, that's like the easiest explanation for a nitpick like that.
I know.
Okay, so what's going on with Jack, right? Okay. Irumodic syndrome, we have had no information that says that this creates telepathy. So
correct.
This is not Irumodic syndrome.
I mean, we haven't heard that it has.
Well, okay.
Again, our only experience, but we've...
Assuming
I feel like
an Alzheimer's allegory.
Yeah. Right, and I feel like if it did do telepathy, then like Beverly would have asked Jack, have you been hearing anyone's thoughts or something? Yeah.
When Picard, he says he hears voices, and then Picard's like, whose voices do you hear? Again, the first time...
Picard thinks bored.
Right. The first time I watched it, that didn't click with me. The second time and the third time I went, he's wondering if the collective's talking to him.
I just thought that this morning, watching it before the episode. I didn't think of it the first time either, but yeah, that's got to be Picard is thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think he's got Borg implants, Alex?
It feels to me like the most realistic explanation for what's going on is connected to something related to the Next Generation oeuvre, and not the Deep Space Nine oeuvre. love the word oeuvre. And so, like, for me, that just kind of, like, sort of keys into, it has to be something, like it just, to be introduced in the last few episodes, it probably has to be something that everybody just goes, oh yeah, okay, fair enough, and moves on with, and that's going to be something that comes directly out of TNG, and, like, the Borg Queen, right, the Borg, something connected to that, you like, theoretically, your mind goes there. It's maybe not the most interesting answer, right, like, oh, it happened to be, oh, the Borg again, right, like, oh, great, but, I mean, especially since we had, they were not the Borg, but we did have a Borg storyline in the last season. But yeah, that's the one thing I'm really floundering on at this stage. My mind is not able to lock in on a theory or a direction or an explanation for Jack Crusher that I feel in any way, like, good about, sort of confident about that being where it's going, which is also a great thing, because it's like, it is nice to be surprised. It's nice not to have called something 4 episodes before it actually happens. And so, I'm along for the ride.
It's the Davidians. Calling it right now.
The Davidians? Is it the telepathic prisoners from, the USS Captain Shumar, the USS Essex,
there you go.
Power Play, right? Like, I don't know, is it like...
It's those aliens that abducted Picard and put him in the prison with the other...
with the Jello cubes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I cannot eat this food.
It is poison!
It is poison! You cured the Phyrox plague on Corcadali 5. Corcadali 5! God, I love every time Patrick Stewart says Corcadali 5 in that episode. There's just like an ASMR piece to that. Hey, I mean, and that is in the opening, like, seconds of the episode, right? Maybe they told you in the first scene of the first episode of this season who's responsible, because Beverly has the, like, award for curing the Phyrox plague on Corcadali.
Is that what that was for? I didn't catch that.
Trinkets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah,
so
well, then...
it's like, it is the Allegiance.
The hero that's going to save us at the end, though, is that...
a force field.
Well, I was going to say... Okay. I was going to say that wireframe intelligence that was created out of the ship in Emergence.
Yep. Just swoops in at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we never did get resolution on that.
All aboard for New Vortiform City!
You have just reminded me that when I was reading the post-series books, I was really hoping that was going to show up with the half AI people. The guy on Titan, White Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
Was there a book that ever did follow up on Emergence?
No. Not that I can recall.
That's a shame.
It's a funky concept.
It is.
I love that episode.
And it's like, I love the episode too, but, we've now dealt with, was the Enterprise sentient for that few minutes and then, gave birth to a toy and then ceased to be sentient anymore?
How often are ships destroyed by that thing their sensors can't normally detect?
Lots of times, I'd imagine, because if you don't know what's there...
Right, because that's the thing, like, the ship goes to warp to, like, save them from the buildup of some sort of particle that its sensors can't normally detect. It's like, okay, but, like, if what it was about to kill you, like, are there, like, 5 other ships that just blew up for no apparent reason because they couldn't detect it?
It's the Bermuda Triangle.
Sorry.
Of Star Trek.
Going on a tangent again here.
Easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I rewatched Emergence a couple weeks ago. That's why I was thinking about this. I think it's cool that there is a specific code that a tortured Starfleet officer can give out that will reveal that they've been compromised.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hope...
Makes sense.
Yeah. I hope it's different for different people, because otherwise everyone knows it and you can use it to lure people in, do bad things. But, like prefix codes.
It's also...
it's for the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a code that a few other Starfleet officers probably would have made great use of in previous episodes that would have, like, quickly resolved those episodes. But hey, it's
well, that's why it's there
now.
now.
Speaking of prefix codes, we do get a Rathacon reference in this episode. When
beep, beep,
yes,
beep, beep, beep,
that was beautiful.
Beep, beep, boop, boop.
Yes, that was excellent. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So now that we're at the beep beeps, we have not seen Vadic transported. We've seen other changelings transported. She insists on shuttles. What's going on?
Yes, she does. It's interesting, isn't it?
I wonder if it's connected to the
hand
genetic changes, because she does sort of imply that it's possibly connected to the hand. It's also possibly connected to she sort of implies that there is a consequent, right, that she has these evolved abilities, but they come at a price, right? She mentions having a shorter lifespan, and constant pain, and maybe that's one of the consequences is also that you can't use a transporter.
Yeah, the changelings we saw beamed may not be the... Oh, no. We never... Okay, no, the ones we saw beamed all got vaporized.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we don't know. The one... Because we don't know that the one that was impersonating Sidney LaForge actually was beamed onto that ship.
No. We don't know that.
But it also might be a specifically Vedic thing, and
that's also true.
And it's connected to the hand face.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking there.
The idea of using the force fields to trap them seemed a little too easy, so I'm glad it, blew up in their faces.
It was a great plan. They just didn't anticipate Lore.
Except Lore was there the whole time. You should have anticipated Lore.
Okay.
Well, you not necessarily anticipate Lore taking over the ship's computer.
Come on, it's Lore!
Come on, give the guy a chance.
He's literally
this is Starfleet, for goodness
plugged
sake.
in. I'm like, what? Once you figure out that there's this issue, don't plug him into the ship.
Even if we hadn't seen that scene in the trailer, I still would have seen it coming.
Yes.
I did really like the line where Alandra LaForge asks, is he always this
that was beautiful.
Yes.
And he has that great line about when you're dealing with these people, Arch is the only thing you have left. That was delightful.
I also really like when he transforms from Data to Lore in mid-sentence.
Oh, God, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
He's such a good actor.
Yeah. I'm pleased to see your withered old face, Picard.
Since you mentioned Alandra, this is, and talk about tangents here, totally off, slightly off topic. Did you notice her hairstyle? Did you notice anything about her hairstyle? No? It's 2 buns on the back of her head.
Oh, wow, the double Janeway.
Okay.
Or the Princess Leia?
It's the Princess Leia, but not over her, not forward. Right, okay. Yeah. But so is that, do we have a hint? Princess Leia Brahms. This is totally bullshit, I'm sure.
That's a stretch.
It is very much a stretch. I had to put it out there.
I'll put that in the same category of theory as the Corcadolite Fire Plague Award.
I was going to say, it's at least as plausible.
Aliens are the big villain of the season.
It's at least as plausible as Jack Crusher being a pirate.
Yeah. No, that randomly popped in my head one of the times I was watching it, and I think it was because I was tired. But it made me laugh out loud when I thought it, so I had to share.
Corcadolite 5. Sorry, you will cut out half of those, and there will still be too many of them left.
I'll just figure out what the waveform is and remove all of them. So, I mean, yes, Lore taking over the ship. We all saw that coming. But we do have the beautiful scene of Geordi speaking to him, appealing to his friendship.
Oh my God, that was so good.
Yeah.
Geordi was amazing.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely.
I just loved that speech. I loved that speech. I loved the the memory of you put me back together, and you made me a better friend, a better father, a better person. Right? We'd heard that line all the way back in the trailer, and now hearing it in context, it's just perfect. And just the way that from generations onwards, they recast Data's big relationship as not being Data Geordi. They recast it as Data Picard. Why? Because Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart were the big stars of the TNG movies, so it made sense to put those two characters in situations together constantly in First Contact, Insurrection, Nemesis, and then Picard Season 1 picked that up and ran with it. Who was there when Data died the second time? Who was there when Data died the first time? Picard. Who was there when Data died the second time? Picard, right? Like, they sort of really screwed in that, like, piece around that TNG itself does not necessarily support in that level of detail that the movies and Picard kind of said it did about the Picard-Data relationship. So it's wonderful in this season now to have Geordi and Data back, and to have the person who is there for Data in his time of need during what we assume will end up being some form of rebirth of Data, we assume, that Geordi is the one with him through that and not Picard. Absolutely wonderful, and a great choice for them to have made, and I'm really excited to see, where it goes next week.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say that the show does show some friend moments between Picard and Data, specifically in Emergence.
That's true.
Yeah. There are some, right? Like, or the Defector when he's helping him, like, learn how to be an actor.
Well, he's doing the same thing in Emergence.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, right. So they do have a relationship. It's just one where it, like, if by the end of TNG, who's Data's best friend?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the most important person in Data's life?
Yeah.
It's Geordi.
Yeah.
By the end of Picard season 1, who's the most important person in Data's life? It's Picard.
Right.
Now, who's the most important person in Data's life? It's Geordi again. The world is set back to rights.
That speech. Yeah, I would love to know who wrote that speech and what their personal experience with grief is, because that was a beautiful way of describing getting through grief about somebody who is that important to you. And it was and Burton did it so beautifully. He had to be channeling whatever he's dealt with in his life. I don't know if his parents are still alive or any of that, but and it was just masterful.
Yeah,
it was really well done.
Okay, so when Vadic gets on board and sees Jack Crusher, she tells him that she's going to take him to a special place. Or was it a better place? I can't remember.
Core Catalyte 5. Now you have to
half a dozen songs that take me to a better place or something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what she says, but it kind of sounds.
And then when she sees his face, it takes her away to a better place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. It popped in my head and I couldn't remember any other words. And okay, I'm like, no, it's Sweet Child of Mine. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
which works because she calls him a sweet boy or.
Oh, I wonder if that's intentional. I love it. Yeah. Right. And then she's like, "Oh, it's so much easier to show you than explain it to you." That sounded like a line from a child predator. Yes, that sounded like what the van that you're not supposed to go talk to and the guy who's going to give you candy. It just. And I understand the context of it, but it took me out of it for a moment.
Sure.
So Jack's not for her, not for Beverly either. Don't know what that is, and we talked about that one.
He's for the Allegiance aliens, clearly.
Yeah. How do you feel about the question of whether we're going to step over the moral line of shooting people who are pretty obviously baddies?
Haven't we been doing that the whole season?
Arguably in self-defense, though.
Season 1 opens with Beverly vaporizing these people that have boarded her ship.
Yeah, but
season 3.
She's assuming that they're going to kill her if she doesn't kill them, as opposed to we have somebody under arrest for all intents and purposes. Should we outright kill them for what without trial?
I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
On the one hand, I'm like, it makes for very dramatic storytelling, right? Like, it is a very, even though they're talking about doing a very un-Star Trek-y thing, it's a very Star Trek-y thing to talk about whether you're going to do the un-Star Trek-y thing and acknowledge that, like, it is the un-Star Trek-y thing and, like, name it as being that way and demonstrating the stakes. And, in some ways, like, what I think is really interesting is this is one of the first times that Picard himself has had to, like, think about how he as a father would respond to his son's life being under threat. And you could see I think, very much in this episode, right? Like him being like, well, I've got 30 years of not being a father or I guess, sorry, 23. Even though Ed Spiliers is 30, like supposedly the character is much younger than that. 23 years of like makeup catch-up work to do in being a protective father, and therefore I'm just gonna blow this, like changeling away. So, like, all of that, right, like, it makes for great scenes, it within the context of Star Trek, it is fairly well set up. For me, the reason I have mixed feelings about it is because I don't see Beverly ever doing that, right? Like, the Beverly Crusher that we knew from Star Trek The Next Generation would never, ever say, I find my right, like I am in the process of deciding in this moment that my moral compass doesn't matter and that something else matters more. We have seen her break the rules, like, doing an autopsy when she had no right or business to do one. Was one where it was like, yes, Ferengi had a moral set of a moral code and a moral set of rules that she broke willingly and instantly, but she did it to serve the right thing to do rather than the allowed thing to do.
Right.
Whereas now she's saying, I want to break the rules to do the wrong thing, and I'm just like, that for me is coupled with the decision not to tell Picard about Jack Crusher. I'm really enjoying Beverly's presence in this season, but this is now a second moment where I'm just like, this, like, all of the other TNG characters feel very right on for, who they are. But with these two very big character moments for Beverly, right, when she's talking earlier in the episode about, well, the only solution to doing this might be biological, and they're like, aren't we basically just talking about the changeling virus again? And she's like, yep, we are, and we'll acknowledge that that's genocidal, but like, and then, like, there was then no line where she said, and so clearly we can't do that, right? Like, it was like, well, we'll feel bad about it, but maybe we'll still do it. Like, that just, like, I don't love it.
It's a big difference between the way she behaved on TNG in Borg.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. A perfect analogy, right? Like, a dangerous, implacable enemy that everybody else is saying, just kill it. Just kill it and be done with it and move on. There's no reason for any of us to feel bad about killing it. And she's the one who stands up for the first time and says, no, we have to save, even though this being is from a race of beings who are responsible for a dreadful atrocity against our people. We have to help this person now. That does not line up for me. And 25 years have passed, and, like, all of that stuff, so people change a lot, right? And so, there's the... It's not unrealistic for the character to have gone through that arc. That's just not the Beverly that I really liked.
Yeah.
And this Beverly is a bit different now. And so I have mixed feelings about it.
I think, first of all, I just want the using the, what is it, polonium or whatever it is? Polonium. Using it to find them, I think, is different than using it to kill them. Because using it to find them, you could arrest them and, whatever. So that bothered me that she was equating finding them with genocidal acts. It's what you do with them once you find them.
But that came later, right? Like, the early conversation where they're like, the solution might be biological was, is there a weakness connected to them that we can exploit?
Yeah.
And it was not specifically just about finding them. That was just like, how do we beat them?
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
And so that does create the space within which they're not just talking about a tracking system. They're talking about a way of hurting them, stopping them, potentially killing them. It's later in the episode, they're like, oh, now we've looked at all this data. Here is a weakness. Thank God it's a weakness where we're just tracking them and not a weakness where we are killing them.
Okay.
And that then short circuits the rest of the conversation they didn't have at the front of the episode about, like, well, would we go there if we got there?
Yeah, I guess I read it in the context of having seen the rest of the episode. The other thing that this brings to mind is justice. This is the only other time we have unless, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is really the only other time that we've seen her react to her child having a metaphorical or literal gun to his head. And I think if she could have just, taken the Enterprise's phasers and wiped out that settlement in order to get him back, she would have. She certainly had no problem with violating all the Starfleet principles. Now, admittedly, that's different than suggesting a genocide, but it is closer to the question of whether we kill this individual prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think none of us have kids, so it's hard for us to put
Right.
ourselves in
Correct.
the place of I have to protect my child.
Yeah.
Just acknowledging that, because there might be people in the audience who
Yep.
are saying you guys don't know shit about this, and I will acknowledge that in that context.
That is a fair
Yes.
point.
Very fair.
But I don't know. There's lots of instances, historically speaking, where we've got the person right in front of us. Do we capture them or do we kill them? And sometimes you capture them, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you send Slobodan Milosevic to the Hague, and sometimes you dump Bin Laden's body off of the ship. There's context is a lot of it too.
You might even say that context is for kings.
Ha!
It is indeed.
Universal law is for lackeys, after all.
But in this context, I think the issue here is they just decide that she has no more information to give them, which is a strange decision to make in that context, because she may have all sorts of more information to give them. She just gave them new information. They don't know this.
Right.
They just decide, well, she's not going to tell us anything else. You're talking about you're dealing with the wrong quandary here.
Yeah. It creates a great moment for dramatic
Yes.
storytelling, but maybe not a great moment for authentic character storytelling.
But you know what is authentic character storytelling? Lore taking over the ship and releasing the changelings.
Yeah,
Yes. Agent of Chaos.
and very arch.
All right. Well, I think there isn't too much more to talk about until we see the resolution next week.
Yeah,
Yep. To be
I mean,
continued. Dun dun
we're on the
dun,
bridge.
dun 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 dun.
Shaw's beat up and bloody again.
What else is new?
Poor
Yeah.
Shaw. Yeah, I know. It's like all he wanted was to just go to Frontier Day like he was supposed to and go do his thing, and everything has blown up. All of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and somebody pointed out, I saw on Twitter today, he's got like one tear that goes down his face when he's laying there watching everything, and I had not noticed that at all when I was watching it.
Oh, I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, but when I saw it, when I watched it this last time after I read that, I saw it reminiscent of Best of Both Worlds and Locutus, maybe not. Just I might be reading more into it than necessary. It might just be that he's, everything's gone to hell. But
Yeah. I mean, he can't like seeing
no,
his ship taken over like
no. And he tried to do the right thing. He told her to blow out the turbo lift, which was brave, and it would have been a quick end, but it's he's trying to do the right thing.
If
Yeah.
Seven hadn't gotten, jumped the ranks and started out Starfleet as a commander, she would have had to take that. She would have had to take that test where she sends someone to their death, and maybe she would be more willing to do this.
Yeah, possibly.
But on the other side of that, if she has all these Borg experiences, how many Kobayashi Marus has she experienced?
Potentially
That's fair.
quite a few.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Well, we'll find out a lot more next week.
Mhm.
Yes, we will. Only 3 episodes left.
So close. Anyone have any other thoughts about this episode?
Corkadalai 5.
Leaving that one in too. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can listeners find you online? And don't say Core Catalai 5.
I can be found on Corkadalai 5, on Twitter at Alexander C. Perry, and my weekly Star Trek news show, Weekly Trek, is at Weekly Trek.
Chrissy, where can people find you when you're not taking over someone's body to help them fight enemies?
God, yeah, we just kind of breezed past that, didn't we?
I'm sure it'll come up more next week.
It will, I'm sure. That's not going to be just left hanging. Yeah, so in addition to here in Infinite Diversity, you can find me on History with the Zloggies here on the BQN. Our short history podcast that I do with my fellow historian partner, Jason. By the time this goes out, I will have put up the information, but we're going on another slight hiatus between term papers and finals. So we will be back with 2 episodes a week come summer. And then I'm also happy to chat about our shows on the BQN Collective on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter at the Goddess Livia, TheGoddessLivia, where I tweet about Star Trek history and leftist politics, as well as the legal goings-on of the Southern District of New York. At least this week.
Somewhat relevant this week, yes.
Just a bit.
Thad, where can people find you when you're not weaving the tale of your origin story and leaving us to question if we really should believe it? Which we also didn't.
Best place to find me is probably still on Twitter at Tyrannicus. That's Tyranicus. You can also hear me on the podcast I do with my friend Carl called License to Spiel. That's license spelled with a C like the British do it, about James Bond and James Bond adjacent things. We're currently going through the Mission Impossible movies.
I would have never thought of that as James Bond adjacent.
Spies.
Yeah, no, I mean, totally makes sense. But I just had never thought of that. Well, all right, don't forget all of our other great shows on BQN, like Galaxy Class, All Good Things, Union Federation, What's the T-Bev, Experts Quiz, Mickey's Marvels, and the aforementioned History with the Vloggies. And exclusively for our Patreon members, there's It's Green with Mark White and Amy's Math Moment.
Thank you very much for tuning into Infinite Diversity. Thank you to Zach Tripp for the wonderful theme music, and Mark White for the awesome show art. Please subscribe in your favorite podcast player, and don't forget to rate and review us there as well.
If you'd like to reach out, you can find our network on Twitter at BQN Podcast, and our show specifically at IDIC Podcast. You can talk about any and all of the BQN podcasts in our Facebook group, the BQN Collective. When you next hear from us, we'll be talking about the next episode of Picard, which is entitled Surrender. Until then, we bid you peace and long life.
You're welcome. I bring long episodes with me.